Anyways, this is economy, plumbing, and heating versus U.S. Persons who are not taxpayers are not within the system and can obtain no benefit by following the procedures prescribed for taxpayers, such as the filing of claims for refunds. Another U.S. case, the revenue laws are a code or system of regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedures are prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither subject nor the object of the revenue laws. Every taxpayer is assessed to a trust. Another, this is actually a state court case. Every taxpayer is assessed to a trust. That's what they try and do, is they try and fabricate evidence. Why do you think they're sending it to all block capital letters? Why do you think they're sending it from one zip code to another zip code? Why do you think all of that's there? It's because they're trying to fabricate evidence that you're a fictitious entity. I went to the Supreme Court and twice I sued the IRS, and I took them to the Supreme Court, and the first time I went, I basically said that a taxpayer is a Title 15 United States Code Section 44 unincorporated corporation. And the U.S. Department of Justice waived their right to respond. Okay, I said a lot of other things too, but the point is that in any court case, if you make an allegation, if you make a claim, and they don't dispute it, it's admitted as the truth. They're essentially saying, okay, so what? We know about that. And so, anyways, a tax, an impost, a tribute imposed on the subject, okay, an excise, a tallage, okay, so think about it. This is the Dictionary of English Law, Sweet and Maxwell, London, 1959. Again, it's on a subject, okay? If you're one of their slaves, it's all about slavery, okay? Some general principles of taxation has been said to be the subjects of every state ought to contribute to the support of government. And so, again, this is all about slavery. And this is Diet versus Turner. This is actually taken from a book that's written by Judge A.H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court. That is entitled "The Non-Ratification of the 14th Amendment," and it's in this court case, Diet versus Turner, which is in 1968. Okay, so anyways, as we have said, the federal personal income tax is collected under a military venue within a martial law jurisdiction. Federal Reserve notes are a military script circulated within a military venue. The problem is the people don't understand how the entire United States is covered by a military venue. Under the Social Security Act that was brought into existence, 10 federal regional areas. These 10 federal regional areas are the same as a military base. It is not unconstitutional to circulate military script on a certain military base, as the base is considered to be a military venue. Military script cannot circulate in the civil jurisdiction of the several states. To get around this constitutional bar, the Congress, via the Social Security Act, created 10 military venues called federal regional areas. Now, I happen to have a friend who was in Korea, and he was telling me how they were circulating military script in Korea. And so, again, this is 100% correct, and this is exactly what's going on. The problem the Congress realized was, while Congress could restructure the government agencies into these federal regional areas, the people could not be identified to be within this military venue, but by their own consent. It's all by consent. The solution was to create another military venue which would trick the people to voluntarily accept recognition that they are within a military venue. Congress solved this problem by creating the zip code. The zip code divides the United States into 10 military venues called national areas. And it goes on. It says, when a citizen receives mail from an agency of the federal government, such as the IRS, and the return address of the federal agency is the district within the regional area the letter was sent from, and on the address of the citizen it was sent to is the national area in which he received the correspondence from the IRS. In other words, the correspondence was sent from one of the federal regional areas, which is a military venue, to one of the national areas, which is another military venue. Taxing districts are established within one of the federal regional areas, which places the collection of taxes under a martial law jurisdiction. And if you don't think we're under martial law, you ought to watch my video about we are under martial law, and you'll see it. Anyways, so This is exactly what's going on. Why do you think that you never get a letter from the IRS that's from anywhere in the state that you're in? It's because they got to get you into interstate commerce. That's exactly why. And so this is U.S. District of Delaware case. Slater's protestations to the effect that he derives no benefit from the United States government have no bearing on his legal obligation to pay income taxes. Unless the defendant can establish that he's not a citizen of the United States, the IRS possesses authority to attempt to determine his federal tax liability. Now, I just uploaded a video called Do You Know Who You Are? And in there I talk about the two classes of citizens. And so the point is that you don't have to be a U.S. citizen. A U.S. citizen is a corporate citizen, and actually there are no U.S. citizens. They're all state citizens, and it's all in what you say. And so once you understand that, you know, they're nothing but a bunch of thieves. A U.S. citizen is a corporate citizen, as used in this chapter. United States means federal corporation, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States, and instrumentality of the United States. And that's found in 28 U.S.C. Section 3002. That's Title 28 United States Code, which is the judiciary. So if you're going to sue United States, you have to sue a corporation. So if you're a U.S. citizen, then by definition, you're a corporation. The United States, established by the Constitution for the United States of America, is a trust, and there's no lawful delegation of authority for a corporation found in the bankrupt corporate so-called government's video. And so, again, you need to watch that video because it talks about how the United States of America that was set up by the Constitution is a trust, and in 1871 they set up a corporation, and that's what you see operating. Taxpayers are not state citizens. Remember, again, you can be a U.S. citizen or you can be a state citizen, and you don't have to be, you can be one without being the other. The state citizen is immune from any and all government attacks and procedure absent contract. Every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He's not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. And that's a North Carolina court case. The thieves represent you by presuming you're one of their corporate slaves and then proceed to steal your property. This is all orchestrated by bar members on and off the bench. For those who are too stupid to know that income is corporate profits, they trump up fictitious charges and put them in jail so they can collect the money from the Vatican Sesticate trust account that's associated with the birth certificate. That's exactly what's going on. And if you know, then they can't go against you criminally, okay? Because if you think about it, if they're going after you criminally, they're essentially saying that you committed tax evasion, okay? Tax evasion is a fraud. It's a lie, and they can prove it. And that's why they're going after you criminally. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Persons dealing with the government are charged with knowing government statutes and regulations, and they assume that the risk that government agents may exceed their authority and provide misinformation. And it goes on every day. That's the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. All persons in the United States are chargeable with knowledge of the statutes at large. It's well established that anyone who deals with government assumes the risk that the agent acting on the government's behalf has exceeded the bounds of his authority. And again, that's the Ninth Circuit. Persons who are not taxpayers are not within the system and can obtain no benefit by following the procedures prescribed for taxpayers, such as filing of claims for refunds. In other words, if you fill out that W-4, then they're going to, whatever they take, they essentially have. It's a contract. You just gave it to them, and the key is not to fill it out. The revenue laws are a code or a system of regulation and tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers, the latter without their scope. No procedures are prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither the subject nor the object of revenue laws. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. Okay, it's all because of our ignorance. That's exactly what's going on. In doing this, I shall have occasion, incidentally, to evince how true it is that states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how true it is that his creatures and servants at first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. A state like a merchant makes a contract. A dishonest state like a dishonest merchant willfully refuses to discharge it. And isn't that ever the truth? And this is the U.S. Supreme Court. It's all about slavery. A person is a slave. Either you're the king or you're a slave, and there is nothing in between. If you participate in their color of law statutes, then you've agreed to be their slave. It's only involuntary servitude that is not lawful. If they can take a penny, they can take it all. All of this is brought to us thanks to our bar member friends. You can learn more about bar member friends in the bar members video, and the Corruption in the Courts 3 video, and the Peace Officers video, and the upcoming Corruption, and oh, actually it's not upcoming, in the Corruption in the Courts 4 video, in the upcoming Fire the Whores in Texas video, in the upcoming City of Fort Worth Pigs video, in the upcoming City of Grand Prairie Pigs video, and in the already published Canada Border Pigs video. All of this is brought to us by bar members both on and off the bench. The motivation of the de facto so-called judges is not for justice, but maybe, if you're lucky, you can get the appearance of justice, which is covered in Corruption in the Courts 4. And the absolute best that you can hope for is the appearance of justice. There's literally hundreds of court cases at Justia and at Canley in Canada that say that we have to have the appearance of justice. These whores intend to create business for their so-called court to justify their existence. They intend to create work for their de facto buddies. They intend to collect more royalties. They get promoted to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. They create work for their buddies by making their decisions as cryptic as possible, forcing the issue to another hearing, ignoring the law, and thereby forcing the appeal. Do you want to place your future in the hands of a United Nations whore who wants to sit on the bench and play stupid? Do you want to put the future of your wife and children in the hands of one of these judicial whores that have complete immunity no matter what? Because if you sue one of them, you have to get one of their whore buddies to do it. Sure, some of them want to really do justice, but are you going to take the chance that you've got a good one, especially when the good ones are few and far between? Do you want to place the future of your hands in a whore that is bought and paid for by these crown pigs in Canada, the U.S., or elsewhere? Do you want to place yourself in the hands of a whore that's intent on converting you into a ward of the court, which is an imbecile? And if you don't know what that is, watch the bar members video. Do you consider yourself Christian? Do you try to follow the golden rule? Do you treat others the way you want to be treated? Do you think you'll get any sympathy from God on Judgment Day when you have not done everything you can to put a stop to these satanic judicial whores selling their justice? Karma is the universal principle of what goes around comes around. If we knowingly allow these judicial whores to victimize tens of thousands of people in the name of their satanic religious ceremonies, don't you think that we'll be held accountable? Don't you think that it's already coming back at us? Don't you think that it's already coming back at us every day? When they sell their justice in their de facto so-called courts, when their revenue officers masquerading as police officers unlawfully arrest us for commercial crimes like speeding, when they deny us due process based on one of their fictitious quasi-contracts, when they populate their prisons with victimless crimes, all judges are foreign agents of the Vatican. See the bar member video. This idea of separation of church and state was really talking about about taking Christianity out of government and displacing it with satanic Roman civil law from the Vatican. All so-called court cases are actually satanic religious ceremony by priests of Baal. Now, I want to say right here that I rail on the Vatican a lot, but I have wonderful friends who happen to be Catholic. And it's certainly not to reflect on them or anybody that's Catholic. It's a lot of times it's my Catholic friends that are telling me this stuff or leading me in the right direction so I can find it for myself. And so there's lots of wonderful people who happen to be Catholic, and it's nothing to do with the Vatican. The Vatican is satanic, is clearly satanic, and there's YouTube videos that talk about it. Under the guise of the separation of church and state, they've taken the Lord's Prayer out of the schools. They've taken Christian symbols out of the courts. They've taken Christian symbols out of the schools. They've converted our Christian government into satanic government, and it's all been done by court rulings from these priests of Baals masquerading as judges. At common law, the jury has to be your peers. At common law, the jury calls the witnesses, questions the witnesses, determines the law and the facts of the matter, and even pronounces a sentence if necessary. At common law, the jury can disregard any of their statutes, and that's called jury nullification. Look it up. At common law, the jury can do literally anything it wants. And that's what we should be going for. We should demand a common law jury of our peers. At common law, there are no prisons. That's why common law is so severe. All prisons are commercial. Most of the people in prison are there for victimless crimes. We need to fire the whores and end the tyranny of these de facto United Nations courts and their Vatican judicial whores selling their justice. Our court is only a jury of our peers, and we are all being denied it so these judicial whores can populate their prisons and collect their royalties. When governments collapse in countries like Libya, the first thing that happens is they kick all the prisoners out of jails. All jails are commercial. We all need to work together to bring these whores to justice. I would like to see some of these whores do that little dance they do at the end of a common law rope. I'm glad it's up to a jury of peers and not me. Before you do anything, so what can we do? Before you do anything, you need to protect your property. I would never take the IRS on unless you protect yourself. I have a presentation on trusts, and that can help you get started, and the link is right there. Further information about trusts should be handled privately. Taxing authorities are all operating under martial law and extremely heavy-handed by nature. We have to pick our battles. We cannot fight all of the potential battles because there are too many. Therefore, I would never criticize anyone for choosing not to fight that battle. If you do decide to fight that battle, you should expect to be attacked, and you need to be prepared to take it all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. They cannot tax without representation, so I always make sure they're properly fired. They have to be able to use a zip code, so I never use a zip code, and I return mail with a zip code with no such person at this address written all over it. If they steal your property, there's very little remedy short of lawsuit in their United Nations kangaroo courts, so I make sure there's nothing to steal. And so, anyways, nobody said it'd be easy, but it is possible. And upcoming events, there's a Color of Law event, there's a Fire of the United Nations clerks masquerading as judges in Texas, and the City of Fort Worth pigs and the City of Grand Prairie pigs. Copies of these documents can be found at my private group at Yahoo called Administrating-Your-Public-Servants, and I've got over 150 YouTube videos that I've uploaded that talk about similar things to all of this, and you can get stuff at my Engineer Win email address as well. And I appreciate everybody for listening in on this and my little rant today. This one's going to be kind of short, which is good because I know a lot of people don't have a very long attention span. And so I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope you have a nice day.